It's me, Trigger Up to You, also known as the Phantom Fox, and also known as Will It Play. Today we're going to be trying a different game out, one that we haven't tried before, with a bit of an insane kind of requirement to play. The name of the game, Final Fantasy VII Remake. Yes, that's the one with the integrated with Yuffie. We'll try it out, and of course, since I didn't have anything set up for the new setup, we're going to work off of the old thing. Yes, it's unusual. I know I'm going to look and sound a little bit different from the official release. That's because I had to refilm this one section for reasons that I really can't explain. The recording that I had previously, I had to remake, and the first shot just turned bad. That's all she wrote. It was horrible. Anyways, with that said, let's check out the game and see how well it plays, shall we? Here we are with, of course, Epic loading up everything else. As it seems, it's going to try to load up the game. We'll see if it works. We're starting off with the GPD WIN 3 to see how well this is actually going to work. Now, the video settings in this game only work in one of two ways. High or low. Literally. I mean, graphic settings, low or high. That's all. Frame rate cap. We can max it out to 120, see how well that'll work. Characters displayed, we'll keep it as standard. Dynamic range, standard. And the great thing about this is we can actually do the gameplay right here, no issues whatsoever, and continuing on. There we go. We got the settings already showing up. We got everything set to low. We still see Cloud rocking it out. We got Barrett right there. Tifa should be somewhere around here. The game's running at a standard 67 FPS as a high setting. 49 as a medium. By the looks of it, it's doing pretty well. The GPU's pegged at 99%. CPU at 61. We'll go up where there's plenty of elements. A few elements that are rocking out, and it's not too bad. Now, the great thing about this game is compared to other games that I've tried in the past, you've had to really restart the game to get the graphics settings to really push itself. Switching everything up to high, everything looks pretty decent still at around 47 FPS. So this game will run at 720p, a borderless window. At high, it looks like it's going up as high as 50 FPS. Oh, we just saw some of the glitches. Now, every time there's an alteration, it seems that there's a bit of a glitch that happens there for a second. Now, the general settings, or at least, now the general requirements for this game to run at a minimum settings is running a 64-bit version of Windows 10. We're currently running Windows 12 with Intel integrated or Intel i5 3333 or an AMD FX 8350. 8 gigabytes of memory is required minimum, a bunch of storage at 100 gigabytes, DirectX version 12, and a graphics card with at least 3 gigabytes of RAM. We're talking a GeForce GTX 780 or RX 480. The resolution that it'll be able to play at minimum is at 920 by 1080p. Recommended settings, though, on the other hand, is a whole different ballgame, running Windows 10 as well, version 2004 or later, with an Intel i7 3777 or an AMD Ryzen 3 3100. Minimum RAM requirements for recommended is at 12 gigabytes. Now, the graphics card, it's getting a little bit beefy, as it requires either a 1080 GTX GeForce or Radeon RX 5700 with 8 gigabytes of video RAM. This will give the resolution 2560 by 1440. Now, with the settings already set to high, we've actually seen and noticed that things are a little bit sketch. We'll try continuing on with settings set to low. So here we have the game already set to low settings. Everything seems to be running pretty decently. A few hiccups from time to time, reaching a minimum as around 17 FPS, maximum at around 50. It still pushes forward as, you know, the Unreal Engine is very much capable
of doing as much power as it possibly can. It's a dynamic game engine that can do quite a bit. In fact, this game engine is so powerful, you can even run it off of a web browser. We see the GPU is pegged out at around 99 FPS, 99 to 100%, which isn't half bad considering how this game actually pushes. So for the TDP settings on this game, well, since it's actually maxing out at 20 watts for gameplay, I would say setting it to normal settings or medium settings in the TDP for the GPD WIN 3 should be sufficient for it to work just fine. Set it to low, fine. High is pushing it. With this actually shown off and seeing that everything still does work quite well, we're going to save the game and we will switch over to the Aya Neo and see how well that can run. So here we are with the Aya Neo. We have it right now set to power saving. What we'll do is we'll set it for balance. Or we'll just go all out. Game. Screw it. Game mode. Yeah, baby. And we'll launch Final Fantasy. Technically, this should work. We will find out soon enough. Another game we will try out is we'll try out Strangers in Paradise when it comes down to that time. Okay, loading the game, we see a few graphical glitches. I think that has something to do with there we go. We're going at a standard 60 FPS. As you can see, we're using the VEGA 8 GPU and a wonderful CPU. Starting back up in the Mako reactor, we will see how far we can go as everything is currently set to, I don't know. Game does load and it loads really well. Go into the options, let's take a look at what we have our graphical settings set for. We have it currently set to low with borderless full window at 720p. As you can see, we are currently running at around 38 to almost 40 FPS plus. It looks like we're doing pretty well. We got a lot of stuff going on right now on the screen.
Oh, I'm gonna remember you said that.
During the battle sequence, of course, not much to worry about as everything is running pretty well. We do see a maximum speed of around 50 FPS, but it currently levels out at around 48. Well, that way we already currently have. Messing with the TDP, let's see if we can turn it down just a smidge. We'll switch it down to balance mode while we currently still have it on low. We can see that the game still runs and champs on like there's no problem whatsoever. Maxing off at around almost 50 FPS, but minimizing it around 40. We don't see much of a difference on compared to medium and high. Between 15 to 20 watts as the system still runs pretty well. Switching it down to power save mode, we'll take a look as to how far down we will go. Taking a look at some of the settings, it's dropping down to roughly around 30 FPS. Now we don't have much going on the scene as you can clearly see, but yeah, it's a good little test to have going on. Now we're going to try with our graphical settings set all the way down to the custom, which is 5 watts. Currently the system is starting to struggle as it starts to drop down to around 10 FPS, maybe 11. Which really isn't really something we want to do. With that said, we will stay as far away from the lowest settings for TDP as we possibly can. Switching things up to game mode, We're going to max out at 20. Let's see how far we can go, and we push it up to around 22 watts, which isn't half bad for a system that is capable of this package. Oddly enough, there isn't much that has to be doing or going on with the gameplay just for it to really make these changes and alters, as it all runs right on the fly. Switching everything up to high, we see that everything is currently running at around 50 FPS as a maximum. And then switching it down a little bit more, let's see how things look on balance, which is at around 15 watts. 15 watts at high, it actually isn't half bad, as it still sticks around at the same amount of FPS. The heat on the VEGA 8 graphics isn't too bad at 60 degrees Celsius. The GPU is in fact being pegged at high power speeds. We can clearly see it's going up to around maximum 1400 megahertz. And while the CPU isn't having any issues whatsoever, it continues to smack the game around like there's no problems whatsoever.
We sink right down to the bottom, to the planet's core.
Taking a look at these baddies, we're going to try and work our way on over with the monochromes. Still, we see absolutely little to no saber complications as the game continues to push forward. It is safe to say that this game is fully capable at full-fledged HD high-powered settings. As long as we can avoid the low 5-watt settings, the game is fully capable of running at what looks to be 15 watts, which is our current setting. Power save mode, though, I really wouldn't... power save mode is really decent by the looks of it now that I take a look, another gander at it. We're still maxing out at around 40 FPS, but averaging off at around 37.
Do the honors.
So the
Prove to
cutscene
me
looks
you're the man
absolutely
Tifa says you
beautiful.
are. That you're one of us.
Never said I was. I'm just here for the paycheck.
Then do the damn job.
As you can clearly see, the graphics look amazing. If you were on a smaller screen, it really wouldn't matter all that much. It'd still be visible, it'd still be playable, it would still be enjoyable. The question that is always asked, as we present an answer to it, will it play?
What's wrong?
The answer is pretty simple. It will play.
I'm fine.
It'll
about the
play on
timer?
both the GPD WIN
You'll
3 at
call,
max
Merc.
settings and medium settings. And it'll also run beautifully on the Aya Neo at any settings except for 5 watts. Game looks beautiful at 720p with no problems, and medium or high settings, or in this case low or high settings, as this is the only thing that the game accepts. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is Trigger FTU, also known as Will It Play? And we will see you on the next video. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful week.